Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
And going to see Return of the Jedi in the theater as a little kid was an absolutely religious experience. I've never forgotten it.
Hello there. This is Dave, and you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of Star Wars. From industry insiders to indie artists, from mega collectors to obsessive mythologists, to find out how Star Wars impacted their life. Here's the thing, there's a lot of ways to look at Star Wars, and it's all from a certain point of view, and that point of view is yours. Now, I've always loved hearing people's passionate points of view on Star Wars because, for me, it reveals new ways of looking at the franchise. Also, let's just face it, it's fun to talk Star Wars. My guest today is a Brooklyn-based playwright and stage director. His plays have been produced in theaters all across New York City and New England. He has been published by some of the biggest publishers of plays and monologues, including Samuel French, Applause, Smith & Kraus, and Playscripts. He is an alum of New Dramatists, was a MacDowell Colony Fellow, and recipient of the Kesselring Prize for Playwriting from the National Arts Club. Go ahead, insert Kessel Run joke here. But most of all, he's a fan who started the incredible substack AHCH-TO BABY, an in-depth newsletter all about what we all like to talk about, Star Wars. Please give a warm hello there to Matthew Freeman.
Hello. Thanks
for
the intro.
Now, obviously, you're a very accomplished playwright and director, which is very impressive. But as you may have noticed, I may have screwed up the name of AHCH-TO. Is it AHCH-TO? I always default to the U2 album title.
Yeah. I say AHCH-TO, but it might be. I'm not sure how it's pronounced because it's never actually spoken.
Yes,
on screen, right? It's the name of the planet that Luke is found on, and where the original Jedi temple is, and it's named in the script, I believe, of The Force Awakens at the end. And I think the general consensus is it was probably a joke about Act 2.
You know what? I never got that. I can't believe I never saw it, but that is perfect. That is so true. It is. Oh my God.
But that's the official name. It's
You know what, Matt? Interview over. I think I've learned everything I need to learn today about Star Wars.
I mean, I don't think anybody officially has ever confirmed that, but I've read theories of it. It makes total sense,
It totally makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a play on the YouTube. The title of the Substack is a play on the YouTube album AHCH-TO BABY.
Yeah, sweet.
AHCH-TO BABY. Yeah.
It's a great newsletter. I really enjoy reading it, and we'll talk more about it in a second. I do want to do 5 with the Force. This is a segment where I ask 5 basic questions of all my guests just to get a basic sense of your kind of Star Wars baseline.
Right.
Which Star Wars movie is your go-to favorite?
I always have trouble answering the favorite question because they're all like my favorite movie. I think lately I pretty much throw on The Last Jedi whenever I just want to, because I just love it so much, But so right now the answer is The Last Jedi.
I find that there are kind of like Venn diagrams of answers because it depends on like comfort or like your mood. It's almost like it's like the movies are a mood ring, and you're like, well, I'm in a New Hope kind of mood, or I'm in a Last Jedi kind of mood.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's the only thing about The Last Jedi as a chill out movie is it's a very tense film with a lot of intense things going on. But I really enjoy it. And every time I watch it, I feel like I get something out of it. And so that's a little toss on one for me. But, every single one. I mean, I think I've seen, all of them so many times. It's like My wife will come home from being out somewhere, and I will turn off Star Wars as if caught. Like I'm such a cliche. Yeah. I'm a big fan of kind of that one right now. I guess to give some kind of answer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, question number 2. I need a D6 for this. And 2. Who is your favorite minor character?
Oh, interesting. Who's your favorite? I kind of love that you just rolled that question. That's the greatest. So, I mean, defining minor characters is hard, but I would say,
yeah.
I mean, who are not the lead characters. Who do I really love? It's funny. My wife and I had this running gag about Yaddle because she found out that Yaddle existed. Like I told her about Yaddle because he's barely on screen. She's barely on. And my wife, Pam, laughed so hard at just the name that it was like she had lost her mind. And so Yaddle is somebody we both love very much. And then when they brought Yaddle back, we're like, ooh, there's going to be some Yaddle. And then Yaddle was just brutally murdered in front of us.
Yeah.
And we were like, holy shit.
Yes.
So Yaddle has brought us a lot of joy and heartbreak. I guess I'll throw Yaddle out there.
Yeah, Yaddle's a good one. I was always amazed at the stones on them to be like, oh, we have another Yoda character. Her name's Yaddle.
Yeah. It sounds like Yoda, but it's not. And you're never going to see her for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And when you do, you're going to cry a lot.
Yeah, you're going to feel really bad that they brought her back. You're almost going to wish she'd been left alone. Yeah, I mean, she's a kind of funny character. A lot of the wonderful thing about the prequels is they give you so many fun kind of background characters that it's just buried in fun characters. I will say another minor, not sort of minor, but smaller character that I really have a lot of appreciation for in the sequel trilogy is General Hux, who is hilarious.
Yes. And I think Dom Gleason's performance of him is really, I think he makes Hux for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, here's a character that's sort of a stock Imperial Guard. He's like, first order officer or whatever. And, he's there to walk around and be officious and sort of think Kylo Ren sucks. And, but he just has kind of the perfect blend of camp and menace. And at the end, when he turns out to be the spy, it's the best laugh in Rise of Skywalker. So he kind of really works in every scene. He's really kind of good. So, I've always, whenever he's on screen, I'm always like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yes. Question number 3. What is your favorite line to quote?
Ooh, boy. I never get to say it enough, but I always want to say, amazing. Every word you just said was wrong.
Yes.
It's like such a wonderfully quotable thing Luke says.
Yes, it is.
Every word in that sentence was wrong. But I rarely feel like emboldened to say it to people I know and love.
Because they may not be after you say that to them.
Right. Who's completely wrong all the time? Let's be fair. So I love that one. What else?
That is a good one. That's one of the things I love about Star Wars line is so many of them work in a corporate setting. And that is one of them.
It's true. That's totally true. That'll end a meeting real quick.
Let's see. Question number 4. Can you do any Star Wars impressions or impersonations?
Terrible at them. I mean, I can't. Like, I don't even do a good Chewbacca. Like, I kind of, I can't even do it. Yeah, it's funny because, I can't. Can you?
I can do some. I mean, it's like. Well, you just turned the spotlight onto me, and I'll suck that. No, it's fine. Let me think of I always get kind of blustered and like, oh no, I can't think of one line. I always like, you will be. You will be.
That's actually quite good.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Serious Yoda. It's fun.
I kind of like Count Dooku because he's or who I love to imitate, Palpatine. He's hilarious.
Yes.
And my whole bit with Palpatine, whenever I imitate him, is because my joke about him is his plan is always for someone else to kill him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, so my joke, like, it doesn't even sound like him, but I'll go like, now you kill me. That's right, you have to kill me. And they're like, I don't want to kill you. He's like, you must.
I would love if Lucasfilm is listening, Lego Star Wars episodes, use that storyline, because that is such a Lego Palpatine thing to do.
It is, just to walk into a room and say, you kill me. You know, like he's like, he just can't seem to get anyone to willingly do it.
Yes. The whole 9 movies were just a story of him trying to get someone to kill him.
It's so true. I mean, episode 3 is like, Mace Windu, please try to kill me.
Yes.
Return of the Jedi, it's like, kill me, Luke. And then in the end, he's like, Rey, I mean, you must strike me down.
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
You got to end this, really.
Yeah, come on.
That's funny.
Look at me. I'm attached to a machine. I'm a desiccated corpse. Someone.
Yeah.
Just please kill me. Occasionally I will say, kill me. You know? Not a very good imitation. No.
He'll just be like, strike me down with all of your love.
I know, for real. He's such a winner.
Besides the movies, what is your favorite Star Wars content? This could be a TV show, a comic book, a novel, a game, anything.
So I loved reading the original Thrawn trilogy when it came out.
Yeah.
It was just so exciting, you know, because we hadn't had stories after. It was sort of like a real launch of Lucasfilm Publishing, and they were so great. They were just so great. I ate them up. They were awesome. So that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, no, those are fantastic stories. And it's amazing to me that Thrawn is still like now an integral part of the Star Wars mythos.
So true.
He's so big in it.
Yeah, he's like lasted, and you know, Dave Filoni bringing him back, making a point of bringing him back.
Yes.
It's amazing. Yeah, I can't believe how long that character has lasted, really, especially because so many of those characters have been sort of relegated to legends, you know. He lasted somehow in a way that works. Yeah, he's kind of fascinating.
What first introduced you to Star Wars, and can you take me through that experience?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I was born in 1975, so I didn't see the original movie when it came out. And I think I probably saw Empire Strikes Back on TV too, like maybe on HBO or something, you know, when I was a kid. But it was like, I was right at that age where they were exciting and new and cool. And my dad was like maybe late 30s, maybe 40 when they came out. So he liked them and was excited about them. And my friends all had the action figures. And this was, you know, it was just sort of like you were almost born into Star Wars being the biggest cultural thing going on when I was a kid. And I remember, I think I was in kindergarten when Return of the Jedi came out in theaters. And going to see Return of the Jedi in the theater as a little kid was an absolutely religious experience. I've never forgotten it. You know, it was amazing. So, and ever since then, it's been like my central favorite story.
Well, were you were a fan of the movies when you went to see Return of the Jedi? You had seen Star Wars Empire.
I had seen them, you know, we had like sleepovers to watch them when, you know, in the early years with my friend Josh, you know.
It sounds like it was a very vivid experience. Was there any one moment or thing that just, as a nearly first time moviegoer, kind of just blew you away?
It was the moment where Luke proclaims he's a Jedi. You know, that when you're that young, you know, and you're that like impressionable, and you're looking for role models in popular fiction, and you're reading the Narnia books, and you're watching cartoons, and you've got Transformers or whatever. And then you watch this character that you know about, and you wonder what's going to happen to him. And they put him through this really dramatic confrontation where he not only defeats his father, but then throws down the weapon and sort of transcends the violence and owns himself. It's a kind of winning that, even though now the hero's journey is such a template, when you're that young, it's revelatory to realize that winning the battle isn't just killing the bad guy.
Yes.
And I think that really hit home with me when I was young. That moment especially, I've always remembered, and it's just like every time I see it, I feel moved by it.
Yeah, it's an amazing moment. That whole the lightsaber duel in the Emperor's throne room is so. It has everything. It has like action. It has like these moments of quiet intensity. It has betrayal. It has cackling Emperor Palpatine. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing it's missing is like politics and Thanksgiving dinner.
No, exactly. You get a whole family meal. Yeah, I mean, it's got exactly. It really and it's interesting because it's just a reminder of how, like, now you see these incredible lightsaber duels on every TV show, but Luke and Darth Vader's actual physical fight compared to what you see today is pretty limited. But everything that happens has a purpose and a meaning.
Yes.
And it all just resonates. And so even now, with all that time passed, it's still just so exciting and compelling, and because it's emotional, because it matters.
Yeah.
The outcome matters. And yeah, it's that as a kid just made a huge impression on me.
Now, you were talking about doing Star Wars sleepovers with your friend. What other ways did you interact with Star Wars when you weren't watching the movie?
Yeah, so I was somebody who just like loved to. I'm sort of compulsively watch movies over and over again. I'm like kind of OCD that way. Like I watch it over again. So a lot of it was just watching the movies over and over. But I would say, I had action figures that I liked playing with. It was funny because this friend of mine, Josh Izzo is his name. He's a wonderful guy, lives in LA himself, and we were friends since kindergarten. And he just had a room full. You ever have a friend with just like his house looked like your house in the shop, but he was like 6, So I was always like, got to go over to Josh's house. He's got all the toys,
Every street had that kid.
That kid, all the toys, right? And Josh to this day is like the kid with all the toys. But he, in his 40s. Actually, we were having a conversation about the Ahsoka show, not to get ahead of myself, and he was like, I just wish there was more product, right? I just want to buy Hera. Like this whole take now, It was so funny. Why isn't product out there, man? I just want to buy these things. Toys were a big thing. Toys were a big part of the experience, was just having the toys and play sets and stuff like that when I was younger. And it's funny because they had comics. I didn't really read them when they were coming out in the 80s. I took a look at them. I think I had a couple, but I didn't really interact with them that much. And when you look back on those 80s comics, they're really weird. But for some reason I didn't like, they weren't my thing.
Do you still collect anything, or has there been any kind of change in your media consumption where now you are big into the comic books?
Yeah, so I got very into buying. So let's see. So when the prequels came out, I got very into buying the toys. I would like stand online at midnight.
Yes.
And I remember the funniest one for me was I was standing online in like Union Square at a Toys R Us before the Attack of the Clones toys came out. So this is a really heavy nerd moment. You know what I mean? Like, there are college students walking by like, what's wrong with you people? But I love to get the toys when they came out at midnight. So that was a thing. Now I have a lot more action figures than I used to. I'm not like a completionist. Like I don't have everything, but I really like to have those little, the 4-inch figures. Yeah. Some people love the Black Series. I feel like if I got into those, I would be broke. No room in my house because it's so expensive and so pretty and so big. But I do buy action figures a lot if I can find them. And then it's more individual stuff. Like I took myself to Galaxy's Edge and I just bought a lot of crap there. I bought lightsabers and a helmet and like I have this bust of Luke Skywalker.
Oh wow!
I know in what's Doc Gundar's cantina or whatever. So I buy those sort of like more high end, fancy stuff, just almost for display.
Yes.
I do still buy the comics. I would say my experience with the comics, just like Star Wars comic books, but all comic books, is they tend to like splinter into 1,000 titles so quickly.
Yeah.
Like I was following X-Men for a minute, and then there was, in order to follow the story, you needed to follow 5 titles, and I was like, okay, come on.
Yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that a little with the Star Wars Marvel comics, but I do like them when I read them.
So, how did you approach Phantom Menace? What were your expectations like? And then what was it like after seeing it?
Yeah, I feel like this is an interesting question because there's this
Yes.
this is sort of a belief, and I'm weird this way. This is interesting. So, because I know that there's this sort of general consensus that people who like the original trilogies hated the prequels, and then the kids who grew up with them. Now, I love the prequels, and I think there was this interesting thing where the hype for the Phantom Menace was just hit me. I was living in Chicago, as a temp looking for acting work, just sort of a drifter right out of college. I graduated in 98. Movie comes out in 99, so I'm sort of just like hanging around. I go to the Star Wars website and I see a picture of Liam Neeson, and I'm like, what is going on? There's going to be a movie? And I could not believe that they were making episode 1. Like, it was sort of like, oh, they're really going to do this, because of course they talk about it, but you don't think they're going to do it. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So I'm completely excited, totally excited. And, reading everything, and, people can't remember, like, I had a modem that I would download the trailer overnight, like you'd watch it slowly appear. So, I was super excited. And then when I saw it, it was sort of this fascinating, weird experience where I was like, this is not what I expected, but it is more Star Wars, and I want that. Yeah. And I sort of decided, almost like, I don't know if it was consciously or unconsciously, like, I'm going to not get in my own way with this. I'm going to say, wow. I dig this, right? There's sort of a way in which you can kind of say to yourself, you can ruin it for yourself. You can say, well, this isn't what I wanted and I'm upset, and that's that. But I also had this moment of like, well, of course it doesn't feel the same as the other ones because I've only seen it once. So I saw it over and over again, almost. And I wondered, part of it was I was bored, but part of it was I was trying to recreate the experience of familiarity. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like, make it feel like the other ones, like familiar to me. And I think it's hard for people to remember now, but there are individual moments in the Phantom Menace that are great. Like the Darth Maul fight. Every time I watch it in the theater, people would freak out.
Yes.
So it was a weird cognitive dissonance moment of like, okay, this is going to be different. But I sort of kind of got on board with it and was like, I'm into this. Let's see where this is going to take us. It's going to be different. It's beautiful looking. It's got a weird mythological sort of fall of Rome thing going on.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go with it. So I wasn't, but it was interesting because like when it came out, everybody I know was like, oh, that movie sucked. I was like, I liked it. And they're like, you what? But yeah, it was an interesting thing. And I saw it 16 times in the theater. I'm crazy. But I did, because first of all, disposable income. But also, no kids. But I was 20 something. But I kind of, it was almost a moment of like deciding I'm going to go along for this ride. Yeah. I'm not going to over criticize the things that are imperfect. I'm going to get on board with what I like and just let it be what it is. And that really improved my whole experience from 1999 to 2005.
I'm going to tell you right now, Matthew, I am so jealous of you. I think that's a remarkably mature and forward-thinking way of approaching the movies for someone at such a, I'll say young age, at like early 20s, mid 20s, to view it that way, because I did not. And it has taken me, I don't know, close to 20 years to kind of come around to like, just get on board and have fun. It's a fun movie. And there's a lot of things, like for me, it was Clone Wars, the cartoon, that kind of said, look at these movies again. They're not what you think they are.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people. I think a lot of people, Clone Wars sort of like reclaim the prequels for them. And I think, like, look, the prequels have a lot of like weird shit in them, like
Yes.
there's a lot of like weird moments and like stuff that doesn't completely make sense. And the love story with Anakin is sort of like, all right, there's some legitimately funny moments, but they're so idiosyncratic and they're so George Lucas that they work. They work for me, but it's like anything. Like you kind of have to, kind of let them be what they are as opposed to wish they were different, because they're not like original. They really are they're so different. But I think that's totally common. I mean, most people I know had a period of sort of mourning, hoping that they were going to have Star Wars the way they missed it.
And it's, in a way, Star Wars is a Rorschach painting where you kind of see what you want to see in it, and or it's up for interpretation. And what a 25-year-old perceives and what a 10-year-old perceives are two different, vastly different things.
Yeah. But the funny thing, I think, too, is like often the reactions to the sequels really mirrored the reaction.
Yes.
They were very similar reactions. And when Return of the Jedi came out, I was too young to know this. Like, I was little, and I thought it was the greatest movie I'd ever seen in my life because I was in kindergarten, first grade, or something like that. But apparently a lot of 15 and 16-year-olds were the saddest people on earth because of Ewoks.
Yep.
And they were like, oh no, Star Wars is lame now. But now people look back on it with nostalgia and love, So
yes,
you never know how this stuff is going to last. But I can't imagine what. It's funny. I left Twitter before Episode 9 came out because I was like, I just can't go. I just can't go through. Yeah. I'm just not going to put myself through this again. It was one of the wisest decisions I ever made.
Yeah.
Delete. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. One of the things that we were talking about, was your ability. What surprised me in your watching of Phantom Menace was your ability to recognize that you had expectations. They may not have been met, or it wasn't what you were expecting. But you were able to make that switch to, okay, I'm going to go on this ride. Do you think expectations is something that I think about a lot because I know my expectations shade my viewing of something.
Absolutely.
Trying to figure out how to phrase this, because part of me wants to say, how do you approach life with expectations but then get rid of them right away? Because I really learned that zen. I think that's what I want to ask.
Boy, I don't know if I can do that. Yeah.
Or what were some of your expectations going into the rest of the prequel trilogy? Prequel trilogy for Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. How did you manage those?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because now once Phantom Menace came out and it hit, and people forget it was 3 years before these movies. Now we get like a new thing all the time. But between Return of the Jedi and Episode 1 was 16 years. So it was a long time to wait. And then 3 years between each of the sequels. So you had a lot of time to churn them over culturally. And they would spend a lot of time giving you little teases online. And you get a trailer and you get a look at a thing. And so they were very good at making me excited about it anyway. I was like, oh, cool. I remember when they announced the title of Attack of the Clones, I was like, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's what? It's called what? And there was I remember on the website, there was just a picture of Obi-Wan Kenobi with a mullet, and it said Attack of the Clones. And I was like, this movie is my favorite movie already. So, but the interesting thing was I mean, once Phantom Menace came out and the expectations had already been sort of like, wow, this is way tonally different. You felt almost like they were trying to say with the marketing of Attack of the Clones, this one's going to be more fun, more excitement, more whatever, mystery, romance, right? And the movie itself had much more action, much more mythology, much more whatever. It also had some totally bonkers shit, but it introduced the Clone Wars. It's the first time we ever saw Yoda fight.
Yep.
Battle on Geonosis. It had stuff that was really big and cool. So even though now it's sort of considered one of the sort of lesser, to use that word, movies, it was very kind of satisfying at the time because it had if your expectations are at Phantom Menace, Yoda kicking ass is like, oh, we're getting what we want.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
funny.
It was so good. Yeah.
A lot of people I talk to love Attack of the Clones for those reasons, that it has everything, that it has like adventure, romance, comedy, action, a thriller story, like a mystery story.
Yeah.
It has so much of everything. And yes, Revenge of the Sith, that ages really well, I think.
I think so too. I think it, and it felt like he was sort of figuring this out as he made them. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched one of my favorite. I love watching the behind the scenes documentaries and whatever. And the documentary about the making of Episode 1 is so great. And anyone who's never watched it, I totally recommend it. And there's a moment in it, I don't know if you remember this, where he's got Frank Oz on set because he's doing the puppeteering for Yoda in the scene with Obi-Wan Kenobi at the end of the movie. And the two of them are just talking. And Frank Oz says, oh, you're going to destroy Titanic's record with this movie. It's like, here it comes, And Lucas says, I don't know. I made American Graffiti too. It made $10. He's like, you can screw these things up. Says Lucas out loud, right?
Yeah.
He's so much less sentimental about all of this stuff. And, just trying to make a movie. He's like physically in there trying to make it, write it, do all this stuff. And so it's a reminder that people make this stuff and people aren't perfect. And people have weird taste that's not your taste. And George Lucas's taste is like old samurai movies and movies, Republic serials.
Yes.
And so he's making movies that are referencing his childhood and the things that he loved. And some of that stuff is pretty dated. Commando Cody, dad, right? So I really love that. But I do think like most of the stuff that everybody loves from the Clone Wars was introduced in Attack of the Clones.
Yes.
Like, like Tamura Morrison was cast in Attack of the Clones. You get to see the designs of the clones, which carry on. You see, the battle droids and the super battle droids and like all these designs and all these ideas. That's the Clone Wars cartoon built out of all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I play a lot of Battlefront on the PS4, and it's so, I guess it's Battlefront 2, and it's so amazing to see some of those like the shock trooper, the clone trooper with the big ass gun, like I call it the lawnmower gun. Some of the tanks that the droids have. And then going back and watching Attack of the Clones and seeing all that stuff is seated there. It's not even like, oh, they took this from a later design for the cartoon. It was all in Attack of the Clones. And that's a very big feat to like have an encyclopedia worth of visuals in one movie.
Yeah, I mean, they were really, it felt like he didn't like repeating himself. He had interesting designs. It was like, let's throw out this new thing. Let's throw out this new thing. And, whatever flaws the prequels may have, they are very dedicated to their vision of Star Wars. And they do something very unique tonally, and they are incredibly inventive visually. You see all sorts of stuff you did not see in the original trilogy. The palette of Star Wars way opened up by the prequel. It lacks, I think the original trilogy has more of a zingy, fun, Buck Rogers feeling. It's funnier. Its characters are a little more charming. It's all that. It's more essentialist hero's journey. But the prequels are just a big, crazy vision in a way that the originals couldn't be, so they have their own charm,
Now, do you, when looking forward to new Star Wars thing, do you kind of look forward to the creative team challenging you, surprising you, or fan servicing you?
That's it's I always, it's so easy to be like, fan service, but I love it when I get my fan service, when they give me what I want. I'm like, ooh, that's right. Thank you. Sorry.
I was going to say, what are some of the things that you want? Like,
I mean, I love, one thing I think is really interesting is like, I was thinking about this before we were talking and about how the prequels and the sequels both give you something you've been waiting a long time for, right? So when the prequels came out, it had been almost 20 years, and we'd always wondered what those first 3 episodes were going to be. So even if they
Yes.
were mediocre, we had waited for years. So we're finally getting this story, right? But the sequels are the same because we haven't seen Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, any of them since 1983. So it's a sequel to Return of the Jedi, which came out almost 40 years after Return of the Jedi. So you kind of go like, wow. And so, that is something that I was like, oh yeah, give me those characters. I wanted to know what was going on with Luke Skywalker. I miss that character. I love that. And so when I get, that sort of, it's not so much the visuals of Star Wars, it's like the feeling, but also the individual characters that I've always cared about. And get to see them, I'm always happy. I'm happy to see Lando again, or, because they're like old friends. They're your friend. They're the who read you a bedtime story when you were a kid.
Yes.
So that's part of it for me, is the feeling of getting to see them again and the story moving forward. I love the story moving forward. That happens kind of infrequently in Star Wars.
Yes.
So I'm always happy to see what happens next, as opposed to what happened right before what you just saw.
Yes. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, but so I love that stuff, but I do like being surprised. I mean, that's one thing about the prequels, for all of their whatever. Nobody expected them to be the way they were. And there's a cool thing about that. It's sort of, there's something individually exciting about that. And that's one of the reasons I love The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi kind of threads that needle for me, my taste. I know some people weren't into it, but for me, not only does it give you really classic Star Wars, it also really gives you stuff you did not expect over and over again, even though you should have expected it. I mean, in some ways, like Luke is in exile like Yoda was.
Yep, exactly.
And he's, and Yoda's not coming back to the battle either. He's very much in the Yoda mode. But we all thought Luke Skywalker was going to run to the rescue. And the movie literally plays with that expectation at the end. It says, well, if you want to see him as a hero, here's him projecting what you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Which is a cool, smart way of giving you what you wanted and also playing with that. Mm-hmm. And so I love being surprised. I love watching a movie I couldn't have written myself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I wouldn't have come up with that stuff. And that's fun because, I want to sit in a theater and go like, oh, damn, that's cool. So I love fan service, but both surprise. Yeah.
When did you start the newsletter AHCH-TO BABY?
Yeah.
And what initiated you to begin it? Inspired you to begin it?
Yeah. I had sort of resisted writing about Star Wars or doing things online or whatever, just because, the conversation tends to be kind of so negative and difficult to kind of parse. And I tend, and it's something, it's for me. I like it. I just like it. And so I don't really, I've been sort of hesitant to sort of put something I like out there in the world for people to yuck your yum, So but Substack was a cool medium for this. It allows you to control your interactions. It's a long form medium. It's not tweets. Mm-hmm. You get to write about it. And when Obi-Wan was coming out, I thought, well, this will be fun. I'm just going to write about my excitement about this. And I made myself some sort of parameters around it about like, I am here to celebrate this thing that I enjoy from my own perspective for fun, because I enjoy it. I'm not trying to make a career out of writing about Star Wars. I just want to write about this because I like it. And I also thought, if you're not seeing this kind of writing about Star Wars in the world and you wish you could find it, make it yourself, make that positive work yourself. So that's what inspired me to start it. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing it.
I really like, first of all, you've got a easy writing style. It's very digestible and very you're almost kindly showing us through your house and giving us the most immaculate tour possible. It's a relatively quick read, and your points are very salient. Like, you make these great observations, back them up with some facts or observations, and then and then move on. And let's see. It's like, you know what? It's like a nice summer day where the sun is shining on you and it's just perfect, like the perfect temperature. You're not burning, you're not sweating. It's just nice. And it's a very positive way of looking at Star Wars, which I appreciate as well. Once you started it, did you find you had a lot to say?
First of all, thank you for saying that about this. I really appreciate it, especially as someone who's, because I'm writing for people who love Star Wars. And if you really enjoy reading it, that's most fun I'm having. I mean, it's for people to read and enjoy. And I want to not overlabor my points and sort of make it easy to read. And also, I made a deal with myself not to try to cover I'm not reviewing things.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Just talking about them. I'm not saying good or bad because that's subjective. And who am I to say? It's just like, here's what I'm getting out of it, which makes it, I think, easier to read because it's not trying to convince you of anything, I hope. It's just, here's what I thought. And what I found was fun in terms of what I have to say was by not doing things like reviewing episodes or making lists of my top favorites or all these things then I freed myself up to sort of do what's fun for me, because there are recappers, there are reviewers, they're out there. You don't need to be that. So I found, like, when I was writing about Andor, I remember there was a little piece I did about the difference between how Andor's scenes are written and like the scenes in The Mandalorian are written. And I sort of broke each down because the Andor writing style is much more theatrical and literary, and the Mandalorian writing style is very declarative. This happens, then this happens, right? And it was fun to just talk about that. Especially in episodes of Andor that were like those episodes where the Karns are sitting having breakfast. And they're like plays. Yeah. And they're like plays. They're shot like plays. And so it's sort of fun to say, okay, so what is this? Not is it better or worse? Because I don't, that's up to other people. It's sort of like, why is this different?
Yes.
And so I have fun just kind of breaking that stuff down and just sort of talking about the themes. That's what resonates with me when I'm watching them. Is like, what's the mythological theme? What are they getting at? What are they trying to let me get out of it? Not, is the acting good, but like, what are they saying?
Yeah.
And so that's fun to write about too. So yeah, I have found, to answer your question, I have found like I have a lot to say about it, as you can hear. Blathering, but it's so much fun. There's so much to talk about. Yeah,
that's a great thing about Star Wars, is it does provide such a large kind of playground to play within. And I do think that one of the things that shocked me about Andor was how, to me, it felt very much Star Wars, but it wasn't Mandalorian, which feels very much Star Wars to me. Yeah. So those two like things that don't seem like each other both seem like this one larger thing. And I find that absolutely fascinating, because then to what I then ask myself is, then what is Star Wars? And I think that's part of why I started the show. It's like, okay, if both of these can be Star Wars, what is Star Wars?
I think that's a great question, because it really is so many different things. Because it's constructed out of so many different pieces of culture. What I'm finding really interesting, for example, about The Mandalorian is that it's really the Old West feel of Star Wars. But it also comes back to like these archetypes of parent. It's a parent and child story. And so it has this essentialism. And Andor is about rebellion, which is a big theme. And it's completely, it's almost, if you didn't tell someone it was Star Wars and just said this is a science fiction show, they'd buy it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it also has themes that resonate so much with Star Wars fans and takes place in the Star Wars universe. It has a lot of characters that overlap in design. And that's one of the things that I think is so great about it as a series, is it contains some of the most serious, important themes of like growing up and adolescence and rebellion and conformity and family and found family and what makes someone special, what doesn't make someone special, faith. But it also has like Jackson the Space Rabbit and like You know?
Good
Like,
pull.
or whatever, it's like it's got that. It's got like
Yeah.
goofy shit in it.
Yeah.
And it's both of those things. Like you watch Young Jedi Adventures, and there's like little kids running around with a little thing, like they're dopes, and they're like, we got to get them. And they're like, little cartoon kids. And then there's Andor shooting people in the face.
Yeah. And torturing.
And torturing, like horrific scenes of torture with the screams of children. And you're like, all of this somehow was made by Lucasfilm. But like even the prequels are about how a republic turns to fascism. I mean, it's pretty serious stuff.
Yes, it is.
And then you've got, Rebels, which is about a kid growing up. But yeah, it can be really silly, like the Lizzo episode of Mandalorian, which is like totally apeshit, like Jack Black, just hanging out.
Right.
Christopher Lloyd, Lizzo, and Jack Black.
Yeah. Who put those three together as like cameos for Star Wars? There was just no one called that.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think is so cool is these modes of storytelling and how many of them are different. But yeah, I think it does beg the question, like what ties them together? And it's really elusive, I think,
Yeah. Has Star Wars impacted, as a playwright, has Star Wars impacted your work at all? Or do you see that as kind of a different space, even though as I ask the question, I know that's an impossible thing to consider something not to be of something else when it's all inside of you?
Well, I mean, what's funny is like as a playwright, and I've been writing plays for many years, I've written all kinds of different kinds of plays, but I sort of live in the off Broadway downtown scene, which is very much formally experimental, weirdo stuff, where you probably wouldn't take your mom to come see it, and so I spend a lot of time in this sort of separate mode that is very not Star Wars, it's like Samuel Beckett, homage, whatever, but But I do think the one thing that I've gotten out of like that I would say is always true is even if you're doing very personal, strange little work, it is for the audience. You know what I mean? It's not really for you. Like I can do it at home alone if I don't want it to be for an audience. And I do know, playwrights who very much say, well, the audience is secondary to the work. Like I make my special thing and then people come get to see it. And that makes it unique. And I don't let pressure from other people affect me. And that's totally a valid artistic approach. But I really like the interaction between the audience and the thing you're making. And I think Star Wars is built out of causing a response in the audience, right? Like seeing a Star Wars movie in the theater, which is its purest form, we all know those moments. We watched the Star Wars movie in the theater and everybody reacted to something, or everybody cheered, and those moments are built into those movies.
Yeah.
And I think making sure as a writer that I've got my eye on the audience. What do I want them to feel in this moment is something I don't know if I learned it directly from Star Wars, but I'm sure there's something in common with that impulse.
Oh yeah. What would you like to see in the future of Star Wars? Like if there was something you could, not particularly you could bring to it, but in general, what would you like to see in the future of Star Wars?
Yeah. I think what I'd love to see is the story to continue forward. I'm really curious about what happens. There's I'm of two minds. One is the story is the story and it's sort of complete. And, and do we need, let's go off and find other characters and other things to do. But if we're going to move the story forward, I would love to see what happens next with Rey and Finn and move forward as opposed to continuously kind of fill in the blanks further and further back. Because there's a limit to how much drama you can wring out of stuff you have seen before. To answer the question, I think I really want to see stories moving forward, or either if you're going to continue to tell this sort of one big story idea, I want to see the future, what's next. And if you're not going to give me one big story idea, then go tell stories with completely new characters. I'm excited for the Acolyte because it seems like a bunch of new characters, even though it's still kind of past.
Yep.
But I'm excited to see what else we can do with different characters in different parts of the story. But yeah, I'm always curious about what can happen next. What can happen next?
Yeah. What are the top 3 elements that make Star Wars to you?
Whoa. Let's see. I think when Star Wars is most resonant for me is when it is engaging with the sort of question of heroism. What does it take to be heroic in one's own life, in one's, on a big and small scale? It's the sort of question that the central saga asks essentially is like, what does it take to be a hero? Who are you? What does it mean to be brave, to overcome darkness in your life? And often the answer is not, well, because you're perfect or you're powerful. It's because you're cunning or brave, or you're willing to put aside your own needs for other people. And so I think those essential sort of mythological, personal questions make Star Wars Star Wars. I always like to say, and this is related, but it's different. I always say that Star Wars sort of works great when it's in capital letters. It's sort of like the son confronts the father, or like the secret child is revealed, or these big, as opposed to super detaily stuff. It's like the big thing, the big idea. The Republic falls, like big idea, is very Star Wars to me. And I think the other thing, and this is something Lawrence Kasdan said as he was writing The Force Awakens, is that he said that Star Wars is goofy, meaning, which I love, because I'm not going to argue with Lawrence Kasdan about it.
No.
There's a sense of buoyancy to it. It's sort of, it's a little silly. It's not intended to be Tolkien, or it's not intended to be really World War II. Like, it's World War I, but you're fighting battle droids that fall apart and make jokes. It's the stormtroopers are idiots. It's got a real seriousness to it, but also this sort of goofy camp factor that is intrinsic to it, I think. I think that part, if it's missing, an essential component. So I guess so big themes, sort of capital letter storytelling, and goofiness.
It's true. I mean, Star Wars is, the sense of adventure is silly when you see it on the screen like that.
Yeah,
it is. But it's also what makes it endearing. And it, like you said, it is a strong element of it. It's also what makes it itself.
Yeah, it makes it relatable. Like because as people, we're you and I have never talked before, but we're laughing and joking and having a good time, and people have fun and enjoy their lives and argue and bicker and trip over stuff and are kind of weird and silly. Like, the world is a funny, absurd place, and even in the face of real important stakes, if you don't have a sense of humor about the world, you're just not going to make it through. Like, you need that, and I think that's why I love it so much in Star Wars, is that it's got that element of, hey, it's going to be okay. This is a little dumb too. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. It's kind of comforting.
I'm going to replay that to myself every night before bed, just so I don't cry so much at 3 a.m.
It's going to be okay. This is a little dumb.
It's just a good sense of perspective.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Star Wars memory?
That's a good one. Okay, so this is interesting. So I got to see the Force Awakens premiere with my friend Josh, who I grew up with in Los Angeles. How we worked our way into this room, I will go to my grave. But it was the premiere with George Lucas in attendance, first showing of the film of the Force Awakens.
Wow.
We just happened to, and I didn't even know. I thought we were going to be in like the theater across the street. But and it was amazing to watch. But it was also that I was there with a guy I've known since kindergarten, that we grew up loving this and got to see this together. Was special. It was
Yes.
really special, and it was because the weird circumstances of the world. Like who knows how these things come together for us. You lived in the LA. I'm sure you occasionally wound up in a room. You're like, how did I wind up in this room?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So we wound up in that room, and it was an amazing feeling, and not only because I loved it, but because it was connected to this friend who,
Yeah.
whose family who's like a brother to me, and I've known since we were 6. So
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it does feel like a reunion on multiple levels. One with an old dear friend, and another with an old dear franchise. So my final question for you is: you go to Skywalker Ranch, and there at the gates, George Lucas greets you. What do you say to him?
Oh my God, I'd probably just like cry and embarrass myself. He's famously awkward to talk to, so I'd probably be like, I'm a big fan of your movies, and he'd say, oh, and leave.
Yeah.
But no, what would I say to him? I mean, I think I'd probably just say, I mean, I know this is sort of like probably everybody answers it this way, but I'd just say thank you. I mean, I just would say thank you. I mean, it's given me a lot of joy in my life. And it's this, it's something that is uncomplicatedly to me joyful, and that someone made for me. I didn't have to make this thing, and he is the person who stubbornly made sure this thing happened.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate it. I appreciate it. So I would say thank you.
That's great. Yeah. How could you say almost anything else?
Yeah.
But you're also right. I think we'd all be kind of crestfallen with him going, okay, walking away.
He's like, got it. Okay. Like,
yeah.
He'd say, how did you get in here?
Yeah.
Purity. Yeah, it's like
I think
at the pearly gates. I love it. It's like, is God real? He's like, you're about to find out.
Yes. Yeah.
I think thank you is right.
You could say, how did you come up with it all, Mr. Roddenberry?
And he just punched you in the face. I mean, I think, I wonder if I could ask him any question like, boy, I can't even imagine, like, because I've watched so many documentaries of new things, you get obsessy about it. And
yeah.
I wonder, I mean, look, there was an outline for the sequels that he handed over before he left.
Yes.
And there's nothing but rumors about what it was and what it really is and how similar or not similar it was to what we wound up with. I think it was actually, more I read, the more I think it was actually quite similar in some ways, but also not similar in others. And I would just, if I could sit down with him and ask him a question, I would love to know, like, what would these have been if it was just you?
Yeah.
Just you. What would they have been? I'd be curious. I'm very happy with what they made. I love them. But if, I'm curious. I mean, of course, it's an interesting question. So maybe that.
I do now have to admit, I think I may go back and change this question, because this is a question I end all my interviews with, is what would you say to him? I do like that idea of saying you get to ask him one question. What do you ask him?
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much. Where can people find your newsletter, and where can they find you online?
The newsletter, it's called AHCH-TO BABY, but it's Substack. It's just matthewfreeman.substack.com, MATTHEWFREEMAN.substack.com. I know everybody can spell Matthew Freeman, but you never.
You never know.
I'm here to help. And there's 2 tiers. There's the free, just sign up service, and there is a paid portion of it. Anyone who signs up and sends me $5, I mean, promise you there's some good stuff to read that you can't read under the free service. And it really does encourage me to keep going. So thank you if you consider it. And online, I have an Instagram, which is mfreemanwriter at Instagram. And that's kind of most of it. Yeah. And I have a website, which is matthewfreemanwriter.com.
And I'll put all these links in the podcast notes so people can just click on them and go directly to them. Matthew, thank you so much for sharing what Star Wars means to you. I really, again, I go back to how kind of appreciative or inspiring, or I don't have the right word right now, and I will have it in an hour. when it's
yeah,
useless.
and you can edit it back in. There you go. It's your
And I can edit it back in. You're right. But I'm also lazy, so who knows what's going to happen. But I admire your seeing the Phantom Menace and saying, you know what, I had expectations, but I'm going to drop them and just get on board. I think that's a great way of looking at it.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad. This was so fun. Thanks for inviting me to do this. I had a great time talking to you.
Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners, and that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.